Turning to young Perkins, Kevin's narrow escape reveals itself through a nervous smile. The young men both realize that they are indeed safe, secure within the confines of God's house, the knowledge of which causes both boys to erupt into fits of hysterical laughter, a laughter of absolute relief. The remainder of the congregation glare at the young men with chastising eyes. Kevin's mother approaches, the two followed closely by the widow Hazel. Seated in the rear of the church, a small group of women continue to pray for a sad and broken-hearted Bessie May, whose loud cries of anguish had now been reduced to faint whimpers. "What are you doing here, boy? Ain't you got no more sense than to carry on like this? This ain't no place to play." The young men's laughter dies away as the two slowly rise to their feet, slapping the dust from their dirty overalls. The young widow aids in removing the loose soil from the young man's face by the use of a white handkerchief. "What have you two been up to?" the widow inquires with the suspicion that the young men had somehow gone through some sort of harrowing ordeal. Kevin and young Perkins gaze at each other, each in his own way search for an explanation. Unable to explain the inexplicable, they find it the wiser to remain silent and submit to Kevin's mother's venting. "Didn't I tell you to watch them babies?" "Yeah, Mama, you told me, but nothing," she interrupts. "I can't trust you to do nothing I say. Can I? Well." Her arms crossed, she impatiently waits for a response. Young Perkins, cowed by the woman's bellicosity, sheepishly attempts to defend his friend. "Ma'am, they won't mind Kevin. They won't mind nobody but you." Kevin's mother glares at young Perkins through narrowed eyes, her hands on her hips. She calls to the pastor, who is among the group of women surrounding Bessie May. "Pastor Jackson, I'm sorry, y'all, I got to go home. Them children of mine actin' a dad-blame fool." Young Perkins sees his grandmother, her arm wrapped around Bessie May's shoulder. He wishes to speak to her, but she is absorbed in the comforting of Bessie May. "Come on here, boy. We's gone home." Clasping Kevin by the ear, she gruffly leads him from the church. "Ouch! Mama, don't... That hurts." Kevin voices his discomfort, all to no avail. His mother's anger heedless to his declarations of pain. She continues to lead the young man out of the church and down the long road leading back to his home. Young Perkins, all the while trailing behind. A soft hand gently clasps young Perkins by the shoulders. He turned to see the smiling face of the widow Hazel, who softly says, "Little man, let's go home." The warmth of her presence removes all fear. The tension wrought by the terror found no place in the young man's mind. Taking the widow by the hand, the two walk in silence and safety down the long country road, the road that led back to the bright electric illumination of the widow's home. The day was long, bitter, exhausting. The soothing caress of the warm bath offered a blissful relief, possessing a relaxing effect like that of a steaming sauna. The dolls that crowded the bedroom reflected nothing of fear. Young Perkins had known what true fear was. He had seen its hideous face, fled from its dreadful grasp, felt its hot breath, choked on its noxious stench. Beneath the warm covers of the canopy bed, young Perkins felt somehow protected beneath the smiling gaze of the dolls, now familiar, pleasant faces. Lying there among the widow's porcelain children, the bliss of sleep came as a welcome friend. Today, like every day at the widow's home, echoing the arrival of dawn, was the proud caw of a distant rooster. With the light of day came questions, worries, concerns. Today was a full day of school, the first to be exact. Had Mr. Pickman recognized him and Kevin? Would Kevin tell his mother what really occurred last night? Would the widow believe him if they told her? If they did, Mr. Pickman would just deny it. For young people back then, there were 3 unbroken rules. Rule 1, the young folks were never to interrupt when grown folks were talking. Grown folks were always to be addressed as sir or ma'am. And the last and most important rule was, never, absolutely never, was a youth to call a grown person a lie. These were rules that had been set in stone, learned from the cradle. Mr. Pickman was their teacher. He carried a certain authority. No, young Perkins couldn't openly defy Mr. Pickman. In doing so, he might reveal to the mysterious necromancer that it was he and Kevin who had observed his ghoulish friend. With the pleasant odor of bacon came the remembrance of the rotted stench of putrefaction carried by the wretched blasphemy. It all came rushing back. My God, the stink! How absolutely foul it smelled. Young Perkins sits up in the bed. Resting his head in his hands, he ponders the nature of the beast. How old was the thing? How did Pickman summon it? Had it always been there, lurking beneath the graves, feeding on the corpses? Was there more of them? Was it the only one? The thought of stealing the conjure woman's cane paled in comparison to what lay beneath the potter's field. The widow's cheerful call to breakfast only nauseated young Perkins. The young man slowly rose from the bed and went through the motions of performing the morning rituals. Dressing, washing, eating without tasting. The widow offered little idle chit-chat at breakfast. The young man was in no mood to converse. She mistook his sullen brooding for the demonstration of mournful respect for the loss of his cousin Jonah. "Well," she says with a sad smile, "I spec you'll feel better when you get to school." No sooner had she uttered those words than the sound of the school bell is heard echoing in the distance, whereby the widow escorts young Perkins to the door. With a pat on the head and a kiss on his cheek, she assures him by saying, "Don't worry, little man. Everything is going to be all right. You'll see. The day's going to go by faster than you think." Young Perkins replies with a faint smile and proceeds down the long road leading to the single-room wooden schoolhouse. As he proceeds, he sees the figures of his classmates. Along the way, he's passed by a group of girls who cheerfully skip by, giggling in a manner that girls are known to do. "Hold up, fool." Kevin's familiar voice causes young Perkins to walk slowly, slackening his pace. He is joined by Kevin and his little sisters, who remain heedless of his instructions to keep up, only act to play upon his irritation. Trina and the other girls continued gallivanting in a careless, immature manner. The young girls skip ahead, laughing in eager anticipation of the first day of school. Doggone. He angrily kicks a stone down the road. Them doggone girls don't listen to a single thing I say. "Did they get a whipping?" young Perkins inquired, hoping for his companion to reply in the affirmative. Kevin places a hand on young Perkins' shoulder and turns him about, gazing toward the sky. With hands raised, he beseeches the heavens. Why me, Lord?" He then places both hands on young Perkins' shoulder, looking into young Perkins' eyes. Kevin's face reveals absolute exasperation. "So, what do you think happened when Mama got back home?" Perkins shrugs and replies, "I don't know." "What did happen when your mama got home?" "Well," Kevin exhales with grudging discontent. "Well, I'll tell you. When we got back home, all them little devils was in bed, fast asleep." "No, you don't say," replies young Perkins in incredulity. "That ain't all. This morning they lied on me. They said the house was messed up because of us wrestling. Mama believed them. I'm the one that got my tail dusted." Young Perkins couldn't help it. He began to laugh at the sight of Kevin, who remains in a state of anger, rubbing his sore backside with both hands. "I hate them damn little hellions. I wish I didn't have no sisters. The two continue to walk. All the while the school bells chimes, announcing to all within earshot that class was soon to begin. As he neared the yard, Kevin begins to speak in a low tone. Last night. What happened? I think Mr. Pickman might have recognized us. Why's that? He queries. Because. What? Perkins asks. Kevin peers from over his shoulder, looking in the direction of Potter's Field in the far distance. Because I smelled something. Smelled something. Something like what? Questions young Perkins, all the while knowing what Kevin was alluding to. I smelled the stench of that thing. A cold chill runs up young Perkins' spine to hear his friend fearfully verbalize his concerns. Kevin chillingly adds, I think it got what? Perkins leans in, his ears strain to hear Kevin's whispered words. I think it got our scent. I think that it knows who we are, where we live. The last of the children rushed by. All are present except for Kevin and young Perkins, who remain standing at the open door of the schoolhouse. Good morning, boys. Mr. Pickman stands behind the desk. His blue-gray eyes stare suspiciously at the two. Class, he says, I know that most of you were at the church yesterday. I know that your folks took you to see one of your young classmates buried. The children look down sadly, reflecting the loss of their friend, Jonah. So we're not going to do a lot of work today. I have a history lesson here, but I figure we can do that at another time. I'm here to talk about your little friend. Jonah? Was that his name? Several of the children motion their heads in the affirmative. Pickman continues, Well, children, you don't have to worry about poor little Jonah. All of his troubles are over. It's you I'm worried about. You never know where death is hiding. With those words, he fixes his gaze on the figures of the two. Yes, children. He proceeds. You never know. Jonah's safe with the angels in heaven. But there are things. Not from heaven. I heard tell that there aren't beings that smile down from above. Pickman's eyes narrow. He begins speaking through gritted teeth. That's just a fairy tale grown-ups tell children so they can sleep at night. No, heaven is a lie. A lie preachers like Pastor Jackson like to tell folks. There are things stronger, much stronger than angels. You can't find them in the Bible. What I'm talking about lives below, deep down in the earth. His gaze remains fixed on the two young men. As if to issue a warning, Pickman cautions, the things I'm talking about are ancient, older than man's false religion. It don't like to be spied on. Nobody likes a tattletale, do they, children? The children all answer in unison with a no. No, they don't. Pickman agrees. Looking at one of the little children, he asked, What would you do to a big-mouthed tattletale? The child responds with an enthusiastic, Teacher, I would throw them in the musky river. Well now, turning to a younger child, he questions, What about you? The child erupts with a, Teacher, I would throw him in my daddy's pig pen. Pickman's eyes fixed on the person of the school bully. What would you do? The bully turns his head in the direction of young Perkins and coldly says, Teacher, you asked me what I would do? I would do a mite more than just throwing them in the river. I'd take them tattletales and do them just like the way them white folks done Jonah. The venting of such sadistic cruelty causes the entire class to emit an audible gasp. Tiny beads of perspiration emerged from nervous pores as the two young men cast glances at each other. Their faces reflect disquietude with a palatable sense of unease. They long for the ringing of the noon bell.